Hello, everyone, and welcome to Well Within. I am here with the beautiful Sahara Rose. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm excited to see what comes through for this conversation.
We are going to talk all about Dharma. We're going to talk about surrender. We're going to talk about finding your authentic path and what that looks like the actual gritty parts of that. I would love it if you could just start off by telling us a little bit about where you come from. Like, where were you born physically on this earth? Because I know we could go to many different levels with that question.
So I was born in Boston near Salem, Massachusetts, which is where the witch trials happened. And it was something I was very connected to as a child. I was always connected to the unseen. I was very interested in like spirituality, which what I saw at that time were like spell books and being a witch. I was like, oh, I'm a witch. And I started to get into that and rituals and magic and all sorts of things. And then when I was in fourth grade, the kids were scared of me. And so they threw me down a hill and I got a concussion. And when I woke up, they were all laughing, saying, burn the witch at the stake. And I really had to relive like that witch wound in this lifetime that so many of us women, we were the kids who were more empathetic. We felt what was going on in our family. We were interested in imaginary worlds and fairies and unicorns and, talking to dolphins, Lisa Frank. And then often something happened. We were bullied. We were picked on. We felt like we were outsiders and we suppressed it. And so I suppressed my intuition after that. And it wasn't until years later through yoga that it was rediscovered. My parents come from Iran. They escaped from the war and revolution that happened there. And so growing up, it was really about survival, fitting in, assimilation. And my dad specifically was very linear, mathematical, scientific. And so we always kind of butt heads in our family, and he was quite angry. And so I always felt like I couldn't really connect with him emotionally because it was like volatile. And so I sort of learned also how to keep men away and that it is safer to connect with women than it is with men. And so flash forward in my now 20s, I went through health challenges. My first began with my digestion, then hormones. I didn't get my period for 2 years. I got blood tests. They said, you have no more estrogen or testosterone. You're in a perimenopausal state at 21. And so I needed to just go on a journey of self-healing. And I was brought to Ayurveda, which is the world's oldest health system, the sister science of yoga based on the mind-body connection. And it was the first time I felt understood that all my different symptoms, but also personality, were all under one category of the vata, the air energy. And so I became obsessed with Ayurveda. When I was 20 years old, I had a boyfriend from India in Boston. And so I started going to India with him. And then I signed up for Ayurveda school. And then after college, I moved to India. And then we broke up and I stayed in India. And so I lived in India for 2 years studying Ayurveda, healing my body, bringing my period back, but also my mind shifted. And I went from someone that just had all these different ideas, but didn't know how I was going to make them happen or what to even focus on, to okay, I'm going to write a book on Ayurveda and use this wisdom that healed me and help heal other people, especially so many millennial women dealing with digestive and hormonal imbalances and anxiety and insomnia and dry skin, just like the whole host of things. And so I just became obsessed with figuring out how to write a book. I had never met anyone who wrote a book, let alone no woman in my family has worked, let alone living their purpose. And so it was a tough time with my family because I wasn't making money. I'm living in India and they're like, when are you going to get a normal job or get married or something stable? Like, this is unsafe. And it was a huge battle between, did I go through these health challenges for a reason to help people, but I have no evidence if I'm even going to help anyone and if I'm even going to make it or how I'm going to make money doing this. Or the other end in my mind was, okay, just go become a real estate agent or something like very, very like literal that's going to make money and kind of keep all this wellness, spiritual stuff on the side. And it felt like a crossroads of you can either do what you love, but you won't make money, or make money and you'll hate your life. And what do you choose? And that began my question of, what is my purpose? Why am I here? Why are we all told to follow our dreams? And then here we are following them and our family's like, no, you're crazy. You're never going to make money doing that. Is this a Santa story that they tell us and then you're supposed to get older and just snap out of it? And I really didn't know because I could make really good arguments for both. That really brought me on this question of Dharma. your soul's purpose. The big reason why you're here, the word dharma is an ancient Sanskrit word that essentially means your place in the jigsaw puzzle of the universe. So we are all unique puzzle pieces that play a role in the fabric of humanity. And we all have a unique texture of how we are here to raise the vibration of the world, whether it's through helping our children educate them in a certain way, whether it is through creating a wellness or food product, whether it is through helping a business that is doing specific things that are contributing. Like, we all have a unique code. And this lifetime is really about remembering what it is, not finding your purpose, but remembering your purpose, because you knew it. It was you as a child, that version of you that you were before society told you what to do. And that brought me on this question of Dharma.
I absolutely love this. I remember when somebody first explained the concept of Dharma to me, and it felt like such an exhale, because for so long I was existing from a space of striving, goal setting, needing to control the outcomes in order to get to the place I thought that I wanted to be. And when I started to play around with this idea of maybe there's a bigger plan for me, maybe if I can move into more flow and if I can surrender a little bit more, then the things that I most desire will come with more ease. They might not be in the same package as I was expecting, but it might not be so damn hard all the time. Mm-hmm. When you were on this journey and quest and you were confronted with these two questions, which so many people have, do I follow my heart or do I follow what society tells me I should be doing? How were you able to discern which option to choose? I mean, we know which way you went, but how did you really lean into that?
So the question that I invite listeners to ask themselves is to tune into your body of how you're feeling when you're actually doing both of these different options. So when I would be writing my book or figuring out how to share a book or anything even related to that, even when it was hard work, even when it was a struggle, it still felt expansive for me. It still felt like this is hard, but it's in the direction I want to be going. And if I overcome this, my body will feel more expansion, more openness, more light, even when it's challenging. Then when I would try to study for this real estate exam, I would want to cry. I felt contracted. I felt my energy body expand. It felt like I was taking a step backwards. It felt more safe. It felt more secure because there's a roadmap I can do. You do this and then that, and then that. It's already paved out for you and I don't have to think about it and there's no risk involved. And I would try to convince myself of, well, maybe I do this for a specific amount of time. Until then, I figure out how to write the book. But if I was being honest with myself, I knew that it was taking me backwards, not towards who I wanted to become in this lifetime. So the question is, think of these two options you can take in your life right now. Tune into one decision. Does your body feel more expansive, wide open, chest and heart open, eyes looking up? Or does it feel more contracted, sitting in an airplane for too long, shoulders diminished, covering your heart? Because your body won't lie. And so it's not that I made the decision and stuck to it. I would sometimes try to go back. I would sometimes try, it was like I would take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but it was still enough steps to keep moving forward. And that's when the flow started to kick in. In the Vedas, they say you're born on this highway to your Dharma. You are born actually living your Dharma. It's just that society, programming, school system, family make you believe that it might be something else, or even cause you to question if you have one. And so imagine you're born on this highway, you're born on cruise control, but then there's all these other little U-turns, exits you can take. You'll make more money doing this. Your family will be proud of you if you do that. You'll get approval if you do this, all these different exits. And so when we get off one of these exits, at first we feel resistance. Tap, tap, tap. Something feels out of alignment. Something feels off, but we think life's tough. Get a helmet, just keep going. Universe has to get a little bit louder. Punch, punch, punch. You're getting sick. You're getting anxiety attacks. Something's really feeling off. But we look around and most people are living like this. So we keep getting off that exit away from our Dharma. And that's when the universe is like, oh, bitch, I'm gonna have to shake you up. And then it's like, on your knees moment, something really, really big that causes you to radically look at your life and on your knees decide, something needs to change. And some people keep living in those perpetual, like I'm sure we all have a friend that's like perpetual breakdown after breakdown after breakdown. Now that energy is called karma. So we think karma is what goes around comes around. Well, karma is actually action. It's the actions that we put into the universe and how they are brought back into our lives. So in relation to Dharma, karma is the bounded energy of the universe to keep you in alignment with your Dharma. So karma are the barricades on the side of the highway. Karma is saying this doesn't feel good because it's not for you, which is a very different texture of this is challenging, but it's for me.
Right.
You know, so when I would be crying, thinking about studying for this real estate exam, and then I would think about the next step of if I passed it, and I'm crying even more, you know, it's like, that's not the direction for you. Whereas figuring out how to write a book, yeah, that's hard. But if I thought about what would happen on the other side, it's so much expansion. So I think of it, an analogy I wrote about it in my book, I ended up writing a book on this, Discover Your Dharma, is imagine you're on a beach and your Dharma is out in the open waters, but there's all these waves you have to go through. And so the first time you might try, you might, you know, start your first business and it doesn't hit off. And then you're kind of knocked back onto the sand. And then you try again and then maybe get a little bit further and then continues to not work. And you're like, why is it not sticking? Well, most people after maybe 2 tries, they just say, you know what? There are no open waters out there. Like I tried the ocean. It was just wave after wave. It is hardship after hardship. Those people who claim they make it doing what they love, I don't know. I've never even seen it. I don't even think it's real. And they're around all these other people on the beach who've never even tried. And so they're all replaying the same thing. Yeah, that's impossible. You just got to get a job you hate and live for the weekends. Until you decide, well, maybe I got to become a stronger swimmer. Maybe I got to get some tools. Maybe I got to get a surfboard or some fins and start to duck and maneuver and go through those waves and go through those challenges, having trust that there is something on the other side, that these waves are preparing you to become the swimmer who can actually handle being in the open waters. And then all of a sudden you made it past those waves and you don't even know when they're going to end. And there you are. These open waters that you've heard about, but you've never seen, where it's peaceful, it's calm, it's full trust and surrender. But sometimes to get to the path of least resistance, you first must follow the path that you are personally the most resistant to.
I think that's so important to note, that sometimes when we are talking about manifestation or finding your path, there's a sense of once you're there, it will just be easy and that there won't be challenges. But it's almost like the universe challenges you to see how bad you want it and what you'll do to get there.
And prepares you to hold it.
And prepares you to hold it. It has to build up that muscle and ensure that you have the right tools.
Yeah, like I got divorced 3 years ago. I found out my then husband had been cheating on me throughout the relationship. And it was the most heartbreaking, challenging, dark night of the soul I've ever gone through in my entire life. And, you know, we were together for almost 8 years. And so immediately after, I'm like, well, I need to find a new husband. That's just what needs to happen. And so I'm just like kind of like in this like impatience, like going on a dating app, like, and it was so apparent to me, you need to become an entirely different person to have an entirely different relationship. Because if this version of you enters into another relationship, guess what's going to happen? Something similar. And so I think of it as like when you get into a car crash, you know, all you see, you're in the car crash, you're in the collision. But when you go up that building that was, you know, right next to the car crash, you go up 3 floors, you're like, oh, wait, now I can actually kind of see all around the car crash. I can see maybe there's a stop sign over there, and that stop sign might have been connected to why the car crashed. Then you go up 10 more floors. Oh, wow, I can actually see, well, it's connected to that other stop sign over here, which is connected to the way that the city said. And then you go up 20 more floors and you're like, I can see the entire way the patterns of the city are set up that lead to these car crashes. And as you go up in levels of consciousness, you are seeing patterns of things that you simply could not have seen when you were on that level. And so I saw that I needed to first let that old version of me die. Like every single part of her needed to die. Or if you have been living in scarcity consciousness, that old version of you needs to die. You know, where the ancient Egyptians talked about death, it wasn't literal death. It was the deaths we have in this lifetime. And if we live well, we'll die many times. You know, we're like cats, like we're meant to have 9 lives and maybe even more if you're really multi-passionate. And so we are meant to have these deaths of the old versions of ourselves to then go through the curriculum that our soul needs to refine, to grow, to change, to heal, to evolve, that it's past the point of healing that it's literally creating an entirely new perspective, identity, thought form, belief. Like your cellular structure changes. So then everything you create, everyone that you come in alignment with, the sound of your voice, the way that you look, everything changes. I look like an entirely different person than I did 3 years ago today because of the work that I've done on myself. It's shifted my voice. It's shifted my embodiment. I became an artist. I used to not be able to sing or produce music or any of those things. That all came through my embodiment work. I share this because the way that kind of career or abundance or even manifestation is taught is like, just think about the thing you want and it's going to happen. You won't be able to hold it. It's like, let's say someone gave you a 7-figure profitable business and everything that went with it, the team, the social media account, the funnels, whatever. If you didn't build it, you would not know how to handle it. You wouldn't know where anything is. You wouldn't know how to manage things. You wouldn't know how to manage a team. You wouldn't know how to keep the business going, and it would crash. And then you'll actually feel even more shitty if I had the 7-figure business handed to me and it crashed.
Literally what happened to me, had not 7 figures, but 6 figures arrived to me in a launch, and my entire nervous system shut down to the point of me having to refund everyone all of the money back. I wasn't ready for it. I thought I was ready for it. I was praying for it. I was asking for it, and it arrived, and my body and mind system was not ready to hold it. But I've been doing the work, and we're not back there yet. We're being prepared, essentially.
Exactly. And what a gift for the preparation. What a gift for learning to become a stronger swimmer. What a gift for the heartbreaks that actually prepare us to hold the love that we claim, that we desire. What a gift for the preparation, because it's the only way that we can actually truly hold and evolve and grow with the things, not just touch and taste the things and then they go away. That's why most people who win the lottery end up even poorer on the other side. Statistically. And that's a fact. So much of what the pop culture spirituality is just like, you want it, go get it. And it's like cute Ariana Grande song, but that's not actually how it works, because there are certain initiations that we need to actually be able to look at things clearly. You know, this is what I love about the sacred feminine path. It's all about looking at the snake. You know, the snake is the energy of seeing the unseen, the underworld, the shadow, the things we don't want to look at. I had no idea my ex-husband was cheating on me, but I think now I probably didn't on a soul level want to know until I was ready to take action to actually leave. I needed to learn how to financially provide for myself, how to be on my own. And the moment I found out, I said, we're getting divorced. Maybe if that had happened a couple years before, I would not have had the strength to, the courage to, the awareness to. I mean, so many different factors had to come into place. So trust that whatever situation you're in right now, you're ready for it. It wouldn't be happening if you weren't ready. And now it's a matter of taking the wisdom that we've accumulated, right? We've all gone through these different initiations. Can we actually take and apply that wisdom? And that's when we walk with the snake with us. We're not afraid of the snake. We're not pretending, la, 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 everything's going to be perfect. It's knowing that there are always things unseen that are going on in our periphery that will come into awareness when we're ready for it, and trusting ourselves that no matter what happens, I got me.
You have had moments of living in India in a hut with rats crawling all over the roof, stealing your underwear. You had to lose your father's complete acceptance of you. You've gone through divorce, and some people listening right now are like, well, hell no. Not doing that, not signing up for any of that.
Look, I wanted a dramatic life, okay? I live it like a Bollywood movie.
She is creating it. So that's not to say every challenge looks like that. I could share some of my challenges, and everyone's are going to be different, and only what you can handle. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to meeting Deepak Chopra and your second book, technically? I would love to hear that story of a little initiation that you went through.
Yeah. So when I went on the journey to writing that Ayurveda book, I had no book deal, book proposal. I didn't even know anything about writing a book. Again, never had met an author before. Living in India, in South India, in a hut that had when she says rats in it, it would be a hut that had a padlock. And every day I would come into this hut and be like, why is my underwear in the wall? Like, no one is getting in here but me. And at night I would always hear the rats on my tin roof. But one night I woke up and my mosquito net was like inches away from my face because this rat had fallen onto the mosquito net and couldn't get off. And I realized the rat was taking my underwear and trying to build its home with it. And that it was like trying to take it through the walls. No. And it was so close to me. And so I had to take my sandal and try to throw it up there so it would like fly off. And I'm just like, damn, it was a $2 a night hut. And that's all I could afford at the time. And I was still willing to do that, then go back to my parents and give up on my Dharma. So that was the level of initiation I needed. I spent 2 years trying to figure out how to write a book. And I thought I'll just write it. And, you know, I was a health coach at the time. That's how I was providing for myself. And so all the money I would make health coaching, I would give it to hire editors and graphic designers. And I finally made this book, and I met this girl who had a book deal, and I asked her how it went. She said, I can connect you with the agent. I sent the agent this book that I was like ready to go. It's called Eat Right for Your Mind, Body Type. And she pitched it to 30 plus different agents, and they all said no. They all said exactly what my parents said. No one cares about Ayurveda. Never going to happen. You're not a doctor. You're too young. This isn't going to work. And so that's normally the time that you're like, okay, abort mission. Go back to the real estate agent thing, I guess. I don't freaking know. And I just knew somehow it was going to happen, but I guess it wasn't this route. Maybe I'll meet another agent. I'm just not really sure. Like a week or so later, that same agent was asked by one of the editors if she knew someone to write the Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda, which is part of the Idiot's Guide series. She asked me if I knew anyone. She didn't even think of me. She was like, do you know anyone who could write this book?
You're like,
That's
hello.
clearly not you.
Rude.
Yeah. And I was like, I can, me. I could do it. She was like, okay.
Put your hand up. That's an important step as well.
Putting your hand up, seeing yourself.
Yeah.
And then she was like, okay, well, they would want you to write a table of contents detailed of every chapter, every point in each chapter, what you would say, and like exactly how this book would be structured. I was like, sure, done. I went to the Barnes & Noble store. I looked at all the Idiot Guide books, how they were laid out. I stayed up all night, and I wrote that 16-page detailed table of contents. This is before ChatGPT or anything, guys. And I submitted it to them the next day. And they were like, oh, this is pretty good, actually. Could you write a table of first chapter in our Idiot's Guide tone? So I was like, sure. I went back, wrote this first chapter, and I sent it to them. And they were like, okay, you're hired. But we actually had an author who was 4 months into the 6 months we give people to write the book. So you would have to write this entire book, start to finish, 426-page book in 2 months.
Virtually impossible.
Yeah.
Feels like.
And I said, okay, I'll do it.
Of course.
But then I was like, how am I going to write an entirely new Ayurveda book and not repeat what I said? Because I still wanted to make my Eat Right for Your Mind, Body Type, which is like a modern approach to Ayurveda and my awarenesses and realizations. And so at first it was so hard to write something you're like kind of holding yourself back in. And then I had this talk with myself of like, girl, you might die next year. This might be the only book you write in this lifetime. So just put your all into it. Put your best ideas into it. Even though it's not your book with your picture and your everything, whatever, it's still a book. I wanted to write a book, and I was open to the how it was going to happen, even if it was under another brand. And so I just spent all my time just writing and writing and writing and writing. And in that process, I would just get into these flow states that I would be sometimes looking out the window and my fingers would just be typing. And it was like kind of when I would be like maybe 2 hours into writing that I would be typing and like my brain would turn off, but words were coming through. And it would be like how the gunas are related to the doshas, and like, you know, tamas is related to kapha, and like all these like interesting parallels of Sanskrit terminology that I didn't even learn about. I was like intuiting it, and I realized I was channeling it. And so I wrote this entire book, and it was all fact checked and it was all correct. So like all of this ancient Sanskrit information was coming through me from something beyond. And so almost a year later, it was about to be printed, and I was at a conference that I went to, a yoga and science conference in like Long Island University in Queens. And I was invited by this person I met in an online membership community named Sada Simone. And
I love him.
Yeah, and it was
He's
my
the
first time meeting him. And so here's another one. I saw this random person in a membership. He was teaching a meditation. I liked his vibe. I reached out. I was like, let's hang. He's like, well, I'm going to this conference. If you want, you can meet me there. I was like, okay. And I went, and it was extremely boring. And it was like, the only thing that can make right now super lit is if Deepak Chopra walks on stage. And they're like, and here's our lunch break, and here is Deepak Chopra, our sponsor. I was like, what? And so I knew I had to say something to him. Like something deeper in me was just like, girl, this might be the only time that you meet this man. So go and say something. And so there was like 1,000 plus people. It's a giant auditorium. They're all leaving the stage. I'm just like going down the stairs, walk up the stage, stand next to him. And I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm going to say when he turns next to me. So he turns and he's like, hi. And I'm like, hi, Dr. Chopra. You've been such an influence in my life. I'm such a big fan of your work. And I recently wrote this book. It's called The Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda. It's actually with your same publisher, with Penguin. And I would love to send you a PDF. And he's like, okay, here's my email. And I was like, oh my God, like this is the highlight of my entire life. Like I have Deepak Chopra's email, because when I would get into fights with my parents, I'd be like, one day I'm going to be like Deepak Chopra, but for the millennial woman. They're like, no, you're not. And they were not a fan of him. And, you know, they didn't see this as real science, you know? And so I thought, that's it. I sent him the PDF and I was just so happy. Like, what a beautiful experience. And that was, to me, the end, you know? And then I was just going on with my day. And the next day I was meeting a friend. We were going to shoot these funny, healthy girl problem videos. And I hear this old man behind me saying, can someone help me cross the street? And so the same voice in my head is like, Sahara, if you're a good person, you help this man cross the street. And so I turn around and I grab him by the arm and I'm like, sir, I'll help you cross the street. Where do you want to go? And he's like, oh, I actually want to go into the subway. It's like 2 blocks down, like into the subway. I was just like, sure, why not? So we're like on this walk and I'm like, so like, where are you from? And turns out he was from Iraq. He was a refugee who had escaped the war. And my mom was a refugee who escaped on the Iran side. The war was against each other and 1 million people died on both sides. So we're talking about this war and, you know, you're kind of seeing a war, just the way it affects people on both sides, and having this very deep conversation, telling me about his family and his sons and how proud he is. One's a doctor, one's a lawyer. I was like, wow, it's so incredible. And you know, the door for the subway is closing. And I'm like, by the way, sir, where are you going? And he's like, I'm going to go teach. I'm a doctor of physics. And so I was like, oh, how interesting. And so I'm like, that was so Humans of New York, you know, like
such a moment.
Yeah, like that would never happen in LA. And so I'm walking and then, you know, you just check your email. It was a weekend. And there was an email from Deepak Chopra's email replying to me saying, what's your number? I'd like to call you. I was like, oh my God, why does he want to call me? Is he mad at me? Does he hate me? Does he hate the book? Like, you know, like what could he say? And so I gave him my number and then he calls me right away. And he's like, what are you doing on Tuesday? I was like, I don't live in New York, sir. I actually am living in LA. He's like, okay, perfect. Because I'm doing a talk of You Are the Universe in San Diego. And I would love for you to come and have a meeting with my team after. I was like, okay, perfect. Because I was flying back to LA on Monday. I was so freaking nervous. I had no idea what he wanted to meet about. I was doing all these yantras, which are like sacred geometry drawings you do for good luck in the Vedas. And, you know, I think I slept in like my car the night before. Like I was just like, I have no idea like what's going to happen. I'm sitting in the crowd. I'm shaking, just even seeing him on stage. And then he just comes off stage. He's like, you come with me. I go into a hotel room and it was his team. And they asked me all these questions like, you know, where'd you learn Ayurveda? Where'd you go to school? Why were you at the conference? Like so many different questions. And I was just answering them. And then they shared, he was like, I really love your book and the way you were able to modernize Ayurveda. And I would love to have you on faculty in Chopra, which is his educational platform. They had just launched a new app called Jaya, which was for millennial youth. And so we made an Instagram video that's still on his Instagram from, I think it's probably June 2017. You could scroll all the way back and it was him introducing me. I still went by my Eat Feel Fresh Instagram handle then. I wasn't even going by my name. And we shot a 31-day mind body challenge together. And that is how I began working with him. And just all of a sudden my life went from rejected from all these publishers, not knowing how I was going to make money, to like, wait, now Deepak Chopra wrote the foreword of my book, which is The Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda, which now I could see, had it not been The Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda, I don't think he would have written the foreword of it. It was the fact that it was this like very legitimate book that was like no ego in it at all. It wasn't about me at all. It was really for the science of Ayurveda, and with his same publisher that for sure I would not have had on my own either. Then I could see that it was like I wanted to write my own book, but what my soul needed was to like do my PhD in the subject, to like really be of service, to really be a student of the work. And I see a lot of times we all want to instantly be like, have our own version of things, but can we really learn about things the way that they are and like really have that mastery of something? You know, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And it was like my life literally went from karma, you know, failure, rejection, but it was all that preparation for all of a sudden this huge amount of dharma. And often that's how it happens. It's like these things that are initiations, but you don't realize them at the time. You're like, oh, it's still not working. It's still not going. It's still not working. It's like all of these different preparations you needed for like these floodgates to open. And it's like new level unlocked.
Expansion, I mean, with the show, we talk about being well within. It's going inward, doing the inner work, while you're still taking aligned action in the best way possible. And that's where the expansion of the outer world begins.
And the physical work is related to the energetic work, because now I can see that that old homeless man that I told you about from Iraq, I don't believe he was a human. I believe that he was an angel that was sent on my path to really ask me the question, are you willing to be of service, to listen to someone, to respect someone that's not this shiny, esteemed author like Deepak Chopra, but someone who is homeless, someone who people don't want to look at, someone who's making you run behind. Are you going to pay him the same respect? By the way, he's also a doctor of physics.
Mm-hmm. You couldn't tell that though at first when you stopped.
I had no idea. But the fact that in that moment I said yes, and then Deepak emailed me literally right after he got into the subway. I really believe that often angels come in form of homeless people, of elderly people, of people who need our help. And if we are truly in our hearts and truly in our dharmas and truly willing to be of service, that is how everything in this outer reality shifts. Like, but that's really what this journey is about. Like, we really are here to hold each other's hands. And even in manifestation, I really believe it only works if we're of service to humanity in it. Like when the whole thing, Deepak ended up writing the foreword of that book and 2 more books after that. But every single time I would tell God, only if this is of service to humanity, only if Deepak's foreword helps more people trust this work. And this helps their lives. This helps them maybe have children. Like I would not have been able to have children had I not gotten my period back and rebalanced my hormones. I would have had osteoporosis very early in life. And there are many people who Ayurveda and Dharma and these things have helped them in their own ways. So if his name is helpful for them and it is of service to the entire collective, let it happen, but don't have it be about me. And when we can take ourselves out of it, because your Dharma really is never about you. Yes, it feels good for you. Yes, you want it because the universe designed you to want it because it's the only way you're going to do it.
Right.
But when you realize it's about you, but not really about you. Like now, I've dropped a lot of preferences. Like before I used to want things, you know, I would do ritual for certain things. And now I'm like completely on this path of like, spirit, lead me. If I'm meant to have a family, lead me to the father of my children. If I'm meant to be a mystic living alone in this world and traveling, like have my heart aligned with that desire. Like whatever is truly of service to my highest path. I don't know what I've learned in all of my past lives. I'm not consciously aware of it. And we don't know how many of our wants are based on ego and conditioning and all these things. So I continue to ask, like, remove the totality of my personality and allow what is truly in the highest good for all to come through and align my heart with that desire so it feels good. And that is always my prayer. And it takes me on journeys that I could have never predicted before. And it always is better than I could have ever planned.
Always better than you could have planned. I have so many, reflections hearing your story, and I hope that those of you who are listening can see how your own obstacles or detours have ultimately helped you refine, strengthen, find deeper purpose on your own path. When I got the job hosting another podcast for Care Experts, I had a moment where, because I didn't have a visa, I was told, go down, start working, apply for your visa, but you will not know when you get to come back to Canada. And my kids are of school age, so they cannot come with me. And my husband, we have a whole life there, right? And so it was one of the hardest decisions that I have ever made. Will I stay with my kids and my husband, which my whole body is designed to do, to protect, to stay, right? Or will I take the path that little Aaron would have dreamed of, that elder Aaron would be like, go girl, it's going to be, a few weeks probably, but it's a blip in time. Ultimately, I made the choice. I cried the whole way down, but I knew that I had to go. And it was hilarious actually, because the first day that I got down there, I went into hair and makeup. And the makeup artist was like, but I don't understand. Why can't you go back? And I was like, well, the lawyer said I couldn't. She's like, but that doesn't really make sense to me. Like, can't you just go back and apply there? And I was like, well, I don't know. It all happened so fast. I didn't even have a choice. I had to make a decision within a matter of 2 hours after hearing that. And I called the lawyer and she was like, no, you can come back. It just might take an extra 6 weeks to get it. And I was like, well, for crying out loud, I almost had a heart attack. But it was a test. It was like a little test to see how badly I wanted it, to feel the support that I ultimately got from my husband and from the kids being like, go mom, we'll come visit you if we can. And then I took the leap and literally life has just opened up in the most incredible ways.
It's these mirages that are set up by our souls. In a mirage, it seems so real. And often creates your biggest nightmare. Your personal biggest
100%.
nightmare will be experienced on the path of your Dharma obviously your biggest nightmare was to be separated from your family and not to be able to come back.
Of course.
But then this highest light and this highest excitement was on the other side of hosting your own show, making your little girl proud, knowing you would come back someday, but that fear of not knowing when, probably the guilt and this. But the fact that you stepped through that and trusted, and then the mirage slipped because the lesson was learned. You passed the test. You passed the level of the video game that it was and now it can all come down.
I hear from a lot of women that they have an idea or a calling, to change careers or to build a family or to write a book or to share more, to find their voice using social media. You can think whatever you want hearing that right now, but it's a platform where people's shadows, insecurities, or the areas that they want to expand into, it's a tool that can allow us to play with those things. What are some signs that somebody is not following their Dharma or they're off their authentic path or blueprint? And what would you recommend for those individuals to support them in getting back into alignment?
So in my book, Discover Your Dharma, I have 5 stages of Dharma discovery, and this will help you understand which you are at right now. Stage 1 is believing that you have a Dharma, believing that you even have a purpose. Because if we don't even believe it, we're never going to move ahead. Believing that I was born here on this planet at this time, in this body, to this family for a reason. I don't know what it is, but I'm trusting there's God. They're just like there's a reason for every single leaf on a tree, just like there's a reason for every single bee in the way that pollinates, just like every single thing in nature has a design. I am here and I am part of nature and I am part of this design. So just believing that is stage 1. Stage 2 takes us into self-improvement. How can I become the best version of myself? Health, wellness, mindset work, personal growth, everything around motivation, self-help, psychology, not so much energy healing yet in stage 2. It's very mind focused, mental and body focused.
Gotcha.
Biohacking would be under this. Tony Robbins things, things related to kind of what we see in the mainstream self-help world. And this is very important because if we have really bad digestive issues, if we're not exercising, if we're eating like crap, you're not going to be able to move ahead. Right? Your energy body simply won't be able to. That's why so many people, they go on a wellness journey and it turns into a spiritual journey because as they clear the junk, they start to be able to feel things on a deeper, subtle level. Just like once you are healthy, you think about eating sugar, you're like, I could not, because it bring down your vibrational field so much. So what happens in stage 2 is you start to become more attuned to subtle energy. You start to feel things more. You start to feel energy more. Maybe you're getting into astrology and Reiki, and that brings into stage 3, spiritual awakening. And that's when you realize I am not a mind or a body to improve, but rather a soul to know. And maybe something was never wrong with me. I just didn't know all of me. And so that's when it starts to go deeper into the journey of the soul. Maybe you're going on YouTube rabbit holes, learning about spirit science and all these different topics, or learning maybe about human design or gene keys or past lives or whatever your yoga It's like spiritual Disneyland out there. There's so many different methods and teachers and perspectives, and it's really, really exciting. And it can feel like divisive. Like, I'm awake, so now we have to wake up the sheeple. We got to wake them up. Like, they need to know. And so it can feel like this savior complex, this division that can happen, this like culture around spirituality of like, I'm spiritual, so I have to like look the part, dress the talk the part. So it's often like when we start our spiritual journey, we go so all into it. I was definitely there before. And it's part of it, but then through it, you realize I'm never going to figure out every system. Spirituality is not a fashion, or it's not a way of speaking or being. It's who we are. Instead of trying to know about everything, what actually moves the needle in my life? Like, what actually makes my day-to-day life better? Is it actually helpful for me to know about the Pleiadians and Lemurians and Arcturians and or like, how can I feel more joyful on a daily basis, you know? And so it start to ground a little bit in, and that moves into stage 4, Dharma development. And that's when we start to really focus on the things that move the needle for us. For someone, it might be gardening. For someone, it might be somatics and nervous system work. For someone, it might be astrology, ayurveda, whatever the thing is. It doesn't even need to be a spiritual thing. It could be like anything you want it to be. Just going hiking could be your practice. But you start to really develop and have devotion towards like one thing, maybe 2 things, rather than like figure everything out, which is the mind moving into the body from information to embodiment. In Dharma development, you're learning. It's like ask the grass, it's practice, it's sadhana, it's day in, day out. Like for me, breath work. Every single day I do breath work in the morning. Like I will not miss it. It is just part of who I am. And so that is the Dharma development that then starts to unlock our own deeper awareness. And that leads us into stage 5, which is Dharma embodiment. And so Dharma embodiment is when you are being you full time. There is no separation between the outer and the inner you. It's not like the Aaron at work and the Aaron at home, but rather you are always being you. Of course, we always have different sides of ourselves, but it's not like I have to put on this mask, right?
There's no performing.
There's no performance. Yeah. There's no more having to like wait so you can like finally like release yourself. It's just nothing's exhausting. Like this is my job, I guess, right now. Like it doesn't really feel like it, but technically this is like my job, you know? And so it's weird. And it's like, that's Dharma embodiment. Nothing ever really feels like work. Even if I'm on a Zoom call with my team, it still doesn't feel like that. And so it's really around all areas in your life need to come into balance to support your Dharma. So certain relationships might go away, homes, you might move, you might lose friends, definitely going to lose friends. Everything that's not in support of your Dharma will slip away because your Dharma is the most important thing on this planet. Like there is nothing more important than who you are meant to be and how you're meant to serve humanity. Like that is actually the North Star. Your children are a part of that. Your relationship is a part of that. When you can make everything dharmic, you have a dharmic relationship. Your relationship is of service to humanity. The way you are raising your children is of service to humanity. The way that you are working is of service to humanity. Those are the things that are going to stay. But the things that we're cutting corners in of like, it doesn't really fit the box, those are the things that are going to go. And so there is a lot of rebirths that happen in Dharma embodiment and in all of the stages. And it's also cyclical, right? It spirals, and anything in spirituality, it's never linear. So you might be in Dharma embodiment in one area of your life, but there might be something else brewing over here that you're interested in, that you're like still very much a student of, and that's going to go on the journey. And then certain things that you were doing for a long time, like for 5 years, I had my coaching institute. That chapter I could feel was complete because I was going so much deeper into just this like path of the mystic, truly. That was full on Dharma embodiment for many, many years. And it was like time for that to end, and a new seed is born. And the sacred feminine really teaches us the path of the rose. You know, like the rose is so beautiful in all of her stages, like a bud, an idea, and then the blossoming and the full bloom. And it's like, you're in it, you're doing it, but then it starts to unpetal its leaves and the journey starts to release itself and the letting go. But even in the way that the rose petals dry, it makes rose tea and tinctures and elixirs, and the rose petal continues to be beautiful in all of her stages. And that is us as the feminine. Every season, every chapter reveals and prepares us for the next. And sometimes the hardest thing is letting go. We want to love everything and hold on to all of it and never let any of it go. Like I want all my friends, all my family, all the places I love, everything right here, right now. But if I actually had everything all at the same time, I wouldn't be able to hold it. It's like a wedding.
100%.
You know, like I think the time in our lives that we're like, I have everyone that I love and my favorite place and in my favorite dress, it's your wedding. And I remember at my wedding, the whole time I was stressed out of like, how am I going to see everyone? How am I going to do everything? I'm also needing to manage the husband here. Mm-hmm. It was like, and then I was so relieved for it to be done. Mm-hmm. So it's like, here, you think you want it all at once. You actually won't be able to handle that.
Yes.
But for that, you've got to let go. But can the letting go be beautiful? Can the deaths and the funerals of the old versions of ourselves be just as sacred as the beginnings?
Last week, I did a higher self, like full day immersive experience with one of my guides. And I'm going to do a full episode on this. And the feeling at the end of it was so expansive, so beautiful, so grounded. And the messaging that came through was really quite profound and was just like, it's time. It's going to get big here. Hold on to your tools. Every day, stick with your practice. And it was just very, very clear. It didn't land in a way that sometimes when I hear that stuff, I get like a big spike of adrenaline. It's like, oh, finally, it's coming, right? It just felt like this deep knowing. I went over to my best friend's house the next morning to tell her about it, and she's been on her spiritual path as well. And I told her, and she will listen to this. So, hi, babe. And immediately, well, not immediately after, but she was like, I have some news to share. She's like, I'm moving to a different country. And her family is our family. Her kids, her 3 daughters are my extended family. Like, I get emotional talking about it. And I cried for 2 days straight, like just complete grief, devastation. A lot came up around that relationship. Like, at least I've done the work so much now that I'm like, hey, what's the deeper message here? What grief is this grief touching? Because this is like, she hasn't died. She's just moving potentially for a year. And so, lots of journaling, finding time to ground, finding time to be with my babies. I told her how I was feeling, that I was so excited for her and feel 100% it's the right move. And also at the same time, like, feel all the feels. What I believe to be true is that in order for my growth and expansion, some things have to change and evolve. We have to have space, what is it? This law of vacuum or something like that, spiritual law of vacuum, I don't know, where it's like one thing must fall away in order to make space for another. And I know in my heart that is true and that's what's happening here. And so sometimes on the path, like, man, it can be painful and it brings up all the feelings and all the grief. But when you really live from that space of, everything's happening for me, not in a selfish way, not in a, as you said, like, okay, well, you go so that I can have my expansion. That's not how it feels at all, but it can create a level of peace and trust.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I resonate because my best friend lives in LA, and I remember telling her when I was leaving. And so she was you. Yeah. And so I'm feeling her perspective through you. This feeling of, sometimes I would say I'm coming back, but then I wouldn't. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm like the avoidant guy in the relationship who's like playing games with your heart right now. But ultimately what me moving away, and I've been away for a year, and now that I'm coming back, she's like, I don't even believe you're coming back until you sign the lease. But one, it made our friendship deeper. So it doesn't mean it's like an actual space of like letting go. Certain things, it's just, you need to become one version of you here. She needs to become one version of you here. But it can actually deepen the friendship because it's bringing in more like nuance and content, like things to even talk about and decipher with each other. And spiritually, our soul family travels with us throughout each lifetime. So you have been with her in all of your previous lifetimes. So maybe in a lifetime, you were the mother and she was the daughter. And this deep grief you're feeling, that's like, wait, she's just my friend. Why am I so sad? You're picking up on a past life that she was like your daughter that moved to another country. She was married off, and it like hits you on such a deeper level. When we have these emotional reactions that are like, whoa, this is so much maybe more than what's fitting. It is something past life related. Mm-hmm. And so it's like maybe like noticing like the texture of certain relationships that we have. And so with our soul family that we travel together in every lifetime, that's your parents, your best friends, your main partners in this lifetime, your children, you've had many different kinds of relationship. You might have been your mother's mother. You may have been your father's arch nemesis. You may have been your child's disciple and they were the guru. Like there could have been so many different things that these like situations come back into our life. Like I remember this one guy I met in India. I really liked him, and And from the beginning, he's like, he doesn't want a relationship, but I really liked him. And I was so next level sad about this, like the deepest grief. I was like, why? I met this person 2 times. Why am I so crying
so
over
crazy?
this?
We've all been there.
Yeah. And it was like, for sure, this past life, like love and soul recognition that I had, that like maybe in a past life, like he was my husband and like broke my heart. And I'm like, why are we not together? Because probably my soul knew, like, no, we don't want to repeat this story again, but it feels that level of heartbreak. So it's like, these are karmas that are actually needing to be cleared. And when we can clear them in a way that's more grounded and healthy, we don't need these giant catastrophic experiences in our lives.
Right.
So it's like knowing like she's going to go for a year. She's going to have all these experiences. Y'all have Zoom. You've got the internet.
We have flights.
You have FaceTime. You have flights.
It's just going to look different than the daily visits or seeing her in that same way.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Friendships can evolve. I love the line, if your reaction is hysterical, which it was, then it's almost always historical. So something from either past life is coming up or just something even in your lifetime that's being touched or triggered or is ready to heal.
Like an abandonment of the feminine, abandonment of the mother.
Yes.
And, you know, maybe you had a best friend as a child that went away or, you know, something. There's so many different things. And so ultimately it's knowing that you are safe. People can come in and out of your life and regardless you are safe, and coming back to I got me. Like now, like before I go on a date or something, I just like hug myself and I soothe myself. I'm like, no matter what happens, girl, like I got you. Like I'm going to be with you. I am here with you, because everyone in our life is going to come and go, including our partners and children and parents and everything. But we are the ones that ultimately we are going to live with, die with, be with. And so like really not abandoning ourselves throughout the scenes. You know, this world is a Maya. It's an illusion. It's a play, Leela, that's playing out. We have mapped out the different scenes, the different characters. It's a story that our souls have written. And it feels very real because it needs to feel real. Otherwise, we're not going to take it seriously. Right. And so no, your soul wrote this chapter. Your soul wrote this script, and you are just playing it out. And no matter what happens, you will be with you.
I feel that there's this thread throughout this whole conversation, obviously around uncovering your Dharma and your life's path, but the practice of not abandoning yourself, the practice of remembering who you are, the seed of your truth. If we reflect back on the very beginning of this conversation and seeing this little version of you who was interested in the mystical, who was self-identifying as a witch or, you know, with magic and head in the clouds. And the woman sitting here in front of me is all of that and more. Like you've come back to yourself through so many different roadways and pathways. You really feel now like an embodiment of someone who left the shore and got hit by many waves and washed back up to the shore, but kept going and kept moving and is now in this space of expansive, open water. So thank you so much for being here today, for sharing your story and your truth. You are absolutely incredible. I want you to share your books so that, well, obviously, you know what? Screw that. Everyone knows where to find them. I'm going to link to them down below, but you've got the original guidebook for Ayurvedic medicine.
So the Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda is really great to learn about Ayurveda. Discover Your Dharma is all about Dharma and the things we talked about, the 5 stages, the Dharma archetypes. I have a quiz, dharmaarchetypequiz.com, that you can take. So really diving into your soul's purpose. And I have my mystery school as well, Rose Gold Goddesses, that every month we do rituals, working with full moon, temple dancing, ceremony, and that's at rosegoldgoddesses.com. And my Instagram is I am Sahara Rose.
Amazing. I will link to all of that down below. If you could leave one last message for listeners, for the women of the world, what would it be?
Well, this is the mantra that I was telling myself during my divorce and uncertainty when I didn't know where I was going to live. And it's very simple. I'm going to give it to you. It goes, trust, flow, surrender, let go. Trust, flow, surrender, let go. Trust, flow, surrender, let go. I'm the one I've been waiting for.
I love
That's it. I made it into a song. Truly, like the best is yet to come. Whatever you're going through, the best is yet to come. So just trust it.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Take what resonates, leave the rest behind. I will see you next week. Thank you, Sahara.
Thank you.